around is trying to dispense the food, and someone else is shoving you with a poisonous food or intake. And that's what it is. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Note that the entire body must be nourished with the same food. Colossians 2:19. Each member must eat and appreciate and acknowledge the nourishment of the food that Yeshua, the head, is actually present. Wow, what a radical concept. Are you here? Turn to yourself and say, are you here? Hello, self. Are you there? Knock, knock. Say, wait a second. Ask yourself, is the head, Yeshua, who's the head of the Kehillah, actually present through the leadership? Think about that one. Is Yeshua actually here among us? Present through the leadership? That's what you have to ask yourself. And once you determine that he is, then you say, okay, now I'm going to fight for what Yeshua is doing here. If Yeshua is not here present through the leadership, you're in the wrong place. That's where your choice ends. You've got the freedom to exercise that. But if you decided to plant here and to park here, now you're with us. You've got to nourish those other members with the same nourishment you're getting. Think about that. Yahweh wants you to nourish others with the same nourishment you're getting. So that we're all eating the same spiritual diet. What kind of confusion would it cause on a Shabbat if we were to walk into the Moed hall and Janet would serve the Jews chicken, would serve the Ephraimites beef, would serve the black folks beans, ham and bean, pork and bean, and would serve the Spanish people royal con pollo. We have the Spanish folks not knowing what line is for the Spanish food, where the black folks. Do the black folks and the white folks and the Jews sit separately because they're eating different things? Some people get so jealous that they're eating what I want to be eating, but I'm not white and I'm not black and I'm not Jewish, so rather than eat, I'll just sit here and be PO'd and bitter and stare at them while they're eating. So now they're not comfortable because they're eating what I want to be eating, and I shouldn't be here. And how come the rabbi didn't tell Janet to give me chicken? And oh, that must mean that if he eats chicken, they must like the Jews better because the Jews are eating better than the Ephraimites. So if they really preach to two houses here, they'd both be eating the same thing. So you laugh, and that's exactly what happened. You cannot go into the parking lot and tell people Passover is on April 12th when the rest of the congregation is celebrating on April 14th. And it's your job to walk away from that person and say, now listen, I am here because I believe Yeshua is present, not in the bread and not in the wine, as the Catholic Church teaches, but through the leadership. I believe that. Because trust me, if Yahweh wants to remove Rabbi Moshe from the leadership, it'll happen in an instant, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. He doesn't need your mouth and your foul mouth speaking against the leadership. No, I'm not angry, but I want to get your attention. Bereshit 32:25. I don't care. I don't care what people think. I'm commissioned long before I met you. Long before I met you, I was commissioned to be his mouthpiece, and I don't really care what people think. There's only one person that I care what they think, and that's the lovely and talented Rebbe Shimrishka. And tomorrow is our Chai anniversary, our 18th wedding anniversary. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. So we're hanging in there.
Flowers tonight.
Bereshit 32:25. Go with me, please, to Bereshit 32:25. I'll settle for some peace and quiet. The flowers are nice. Bereshit 32:25. And please, don't misunderstand. Please, I beg you, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that you are not free to think. If you were not free to think, you'd still be in the church. If you're not free to think, you would still celebrate Easter and Christmas. Right? Right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying put your opinion, swallow your pride, because that's what it is. I have to be heard. Yahweh, I have to be heard. Yahweh showed me something that's different than what's being shared and what's being told. That is pride. Swallow your pride and say, Yahweh, I don't want. I'm not going to share what I think. I'm going to adopt and live for the greater good of the community. That's why I'm here. Amen. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Bereshit 32:25. Speaking of Yaakov, wrestling with a man with a capital M. Bereshit 32:25. And when the man saw, and we know who that man was, Tehillah, right? When the man saw that he prevailed not against him, the man touched the hollow of Yaakov's thigh, and the hollow of Yaakov's thigh, was out of joint. Hear me now. His thigh was out of joint as the man wrestled with Yaakov. Let me show you how I see this as it applies to joint compound. Turn to your neighbor and say joint compound. I said compound joint. A disjointed believer like Yaakov in this instance thinks he is merely differing and wrestling with just a man. But he came to find out that the man was really Yeshua. You get it? He thought he was wrestling with flesh and blood, right? But who was Yaakov wrestling with? Yeshua. Is it not possible when we constantly voice our opinions, even when they're right, with a need to be heard, either in favor or against the established order of teaching or doing things, that we think we are entitled to that because, after all, the leadership are just men. They're flesh and blood. Yahweh remembers their frame that they are but dust. Why should I be treated as a doormat? By flesh and blood, by dust. We have a right to be heard. We have a right to resist things when we feel things are wrong. But what about Yaakov? He was wrestling a man, but he came to find out that he was fighting the will of Yahweh, Yeshua. Boy, if I had a nickel. You get my point? Yes. We think we have a right to be heard, our opinions matter, and then we think that something can't be, and that the leadership or the congregation is out of order, and that we're just sharing our opinion in love. We're not forcing it down on anybody's throat. We're just sharing our opinions in love because we're convinced that Yahweh speaks to me just like he speaks to others. True? True. But Yahweh doesn't say, now that I've spoken to you, go and contradict everything that's been going on there for the last 20 years. He doesn't give you that right. And how many times we think that the leadership is just men and women that are really talking, imperfect men and women, but it's really Yeshua that you wrestle with. Wow. Daniel 5:6. Go to Daniel 5:6, please. Even in the early Kehillah, when Gamaliel heard of the things Yahweh was doing through the Shlichim and the Talmidim, he said, brethren, beware what you do to these men. Beware about beating these men, lest in fighting these men, you don't really fight men, that you think it's a fringe cultish movement. The Nazarene Israelite movement is a fringe cultish movement. Be careful, because in reality, in the process, you might find that you're actually fighting against Yahweh. And that takes humility. The rabbi's been doing this a little bit longer. Tehillah's been around the block a few times. There's established witness. There's established order. The people are experienced. They're not novices. I submit to that order. My opinions don't count. I take my pride and I bite on it. And that's hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy to do. I am not saying it's easy to do. Especially when you've been separate and isolated, and you're not used to, or you come from a Messianic congregation where everybody's telling the rabbi what to do. you ever come from that kind of an atmosphere?